I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending September the 13th. Where's our Smoky Bear? We've got to do something about these plant fires. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but the end of the week there last week, we had another big scare, and I mean people were messaging me, calling me, and really fearful. I mean, not just, concerned, but I mean scared. We had another fire break out in another major packing plant last Friday. Cargill in Dodge City, Kansas had a fire there. It got into their rendering area. It caused a grass fire that probably made it look worse than what it really was, but still way too close for comfort. And they didn't expect to miss any production out of the deal. And they did make a statement. They came right out and said that. They didn't leave us in the dark at all about that. And so that was great that we did recover from that. But the fear that broke out in everybody whenever they heard about this fire, I mean, just people's heart just skipped a beat. And it goes to show how vulnerable we are. We found out how vulnerable we are. It'll be going on 6 weeks ago, but 5 weeks ago for sure now. And we've got to do something about that. We've got to find some way to protect ourselves from something like that happening. We got to get some more packing plants, some kill capacity opened up. We've got to use some that's existing, and we just can't stand back and wait for something like that. And in the least, we've got to get some fire awareness and safety for these people that are fooling around in these plants, fixing on things and stuff. I think a lot of people said that it was a transformer that sparked, but I don't think it was. I think it was actually some welding that was done up on the roof there, maybe around the rendering area there at Cargill and Dodge City. But whatever it is, we need to be maybe using some JB weld instead of shooting sparks as dry and as arid as it is down here in the Southwest, and as windy as it is too all the time. We've got to figure out a way to prevent something like that from happening, and maybe protect our producers against it. I heard some reports that come out about the fire in Holcomb, Kansas there at the Tyson plant, and folks were saying that they were protected. They had insurance to protect themselves, and then of course they've got to reap these huge profits along with the rest of your big packers since it happened. Of course, every time something, some upheaval happens, whether it be mad cow or this or a bad weather happenstance or something, it's always to the benefit of the big packer. They stand to benefit everything. They put scare into the industry and then just take total advantage of it. But one reason we thought that surely they wouldn't be dragging their feet getting that plant open there at Tyson and Holcomb is because they were having to pay their employees that were under union contract, and they were still having to pay them. And then supposedly now we're hearing that they had insurance to cover that. So maybe they are dragging their feet a little bit. It's hard to believe, as concentrated as that fire was at Tyson, and the only fuel it found to burn was some boxes, that they couldn't get up and running again. Maybe they're taking this opportunity to be down to do some improvements there and some things that they would have liked to have done, but they really couldn't afford to shut down for. But now that everything's shut down and they're coming out gangbusters on it, why not go ahead and do some other things? But the Cargill fire just reminded us once again of where we're at, and we've just been in a total upheaval in our markets for the last 5 weeks, going on 6 weeks now, and people are still mad, wanting to do something about it. The market is starting to come back around. Your yearling market for sure is coming back around. Of course, yearlings are getting really short right now, and the calves are starting to make their way. The box beef cutout values are starting to get back down. They're still $6 or $7 a hundred above where they were when the fire broke out, but they're starting to get back down there. So your packers will probably get back into just an everyday mode, get back into a normal type thing here now. But we know that the fat cattle market was going to be under pressure regardless of whether that plant happened or not. but we never will know how that was going to work out because we lost so much right off the bat there. But your packers were able to reap benefits of $400-500 plus per head profits while your cattle feeding industry is always losing. But I did see kind of a movement that was come out over the weekend where come out in Western Ag Reporter, an article that they had in there about the Holcomb fire and all this thing that was going out, and we need to get something done. Of course, the cattle industry rarely looks to the government for help. I know we're kind of looking with a raised eyebrow about this P&S investigation, about everything that happened since the fire that our Ag Secretary called for, but we're not really expecting a whole lot out of that. We'd like to hear some more reports about what is going to happen, but we're not expecting a whole lot out of that. But we did have some people that were saying that we need to get the president involved in this, and how can you get word to him? So everybody is saying that we should tweet the president because he does pay attention to Twitter, and if enough of us got together, I'm not exactly sure when they want to do that, but they were talking over a series of 2 or 3 days. I think no more than there is of us that are in production cattle agriculture. I think we need to do it like in one morning, but everybody pick a morning and we'll all give him a trump, maybe tell him your own story, tell him how disgusted you are in it, and it might be enough to have him have the people that places that he's got to do that really try to do something. So we'll see how that goes, but it'll be interesting to see what plays out with that. Hopefully we can get some kind of a movement going, because we just are getting so frustrated with not being able to do anything. We're just at the mercy of, it seems like, every single thing that affects the market and we have nothing to say about it. But what else has been going on? We've had some moisture in the southwest area here. Guys are wanting to plant wheat. A lot of them have put a lot of it in the ground. We did get some rain here in the last several days in the Texas Panhandle and surrounding areas. Oklahoma's been in pretty good shape, so southwest Kansas, some spots of rain. So the guys are getting some wheat put in. The other guys are dusting it in and hoping for rain to come back. But your crop report come out last Thursday there, and there was so much other things going on, we didn't pay too much attention to it. It did cause your corn futures to be up slightly, nothing big. They're that volatile all the time anyway, just like cattle. But on Thursday, but they did come out, and they said we're still expecting about the same number of harvested acres, about 82 million, which is the same as they had on the last report. They have lowered the yield expectations though a little bit. 168.2 bushels to the acre on the harvested acres for corn. That's down about 1.3 bushels to the acre, which adds up to be a lot compared to the last report that came out in August, and down 8.2 bushels to acre compared to a year ago. But your December corn sitting at 368 3/4, which is still a lot cheaper than what most people are thinking. Let's talk about your cattle futures for last week. October live cattle, Monday was down 67. Tuesday up $1.95. We found friendliness in the futures there early to midweek. Wednesday was up 2.35. Thursday was still up 22 cents. Friday down 65 cents on some profit taken, with your October live cattle ending the week at 98.07. That was up $3.20 for the week. December ended the week at 104.37, up $4.62. April, always the highest, is now trading over $1.15, so that looks pretty good out there for early next spring. September feeder cattle, Monday was down 52 cents, and we started off the week just kind of in a doldrum there. We were still in a hangover from the previous week's activities and mad about everything, but then the board started turning around big time, and Tuesday on feeder cattle was up $1.07. Wednesday it was up $2.17. Thursday up 77 cents. This all on the September. And then Friday your September feeder cattle were down 35 cents to end the week at 136.50, up $3.15 for the week. October feeders $1.3457, which was up $3.67 for the week. So it was an unusual trade in your fat cattle in the cash market through Thursday. Only 37,400. Then we did have some more trade on Friday, but still expecting another light week of trade. And guys, I've been telling you this: the packers are still short bought, and even though we have a lot of market ready cattle out there, they need some cattle on the negotiated side there, the cattle that are in loose hands to trade on. They need those cattle. They'll be aggressive coming out again here early this week. And guys, you know, got to stick your heels in the ground a little bit. We got to get some more of this market position back. Even though we did see a big switch this past week. We started out Monday. Of course, the board was a little bit lower. Our packers come out on Monday and getting cattle bought cheaper than they did the end of the previous week, which by the end of the previous week, we were at 98, and then they come in on Monday buying cattle at 97, which is amazing because they rarely come out on a Monday wanting to bid on cattle and then people selling them cheaper. But had some trade at 97, which would have been lower. But then we saw things turn around. By Tuesday, we were still kind of in there, but the packers were getting more aggressive. We saw some bids in the northern plains from 157 to 160 and saw a little dab of trade there. By Wednesday, after we had the board up big on Tuesday and then up strong on Wednesday morning, Wednesday your packers come out bidding 97 and then 98 and then 99 and then $1. And then that might happen under normal circumstances on a typical week from your packers, but it shows you how hungry they are to buy cattle in the negotiated trade market, and raising their bid $3 and $4 per increment on a one day in the middle of the week. That's pretty bullish for their needs, but still not able to completely take advantage of it. But we did see a little bit of trade at some of those levels. By Thursday, we were starting to establish our market from 99 to $1.02, mostly 99 to $1, but $1.02 on some of those better cattle up in the northern plains, especially in Iowa. Dress sales from 158 to 160, a few 162, mostly by your regionals on some of those better cattle. And then Friday, we did see some more trade in the southern plains, mostly in Kansas, at $1. So we saw Texas and Kansas trade cattle at 99 on Thursday and then $1 on Friday. So we've come back now. So hopefully we've established a bottom, and we'll keep things in the triple digits this week. You hate to give up any more ground. Northern Plains selling cattle from $1 to $1.02 on Friday, and 155 to 160. That dressed market really hasn't changed a whole lot up there where they sell the bulk of the dressed cattle. Your box beef cutout values down big, your average trade for the week. And so those beef purchasers are starting to get things back to normal after they were taken so much advantage of there after the fire. But choice cuts, your average trade for the week last week was $222.61, down $6.90 from the previous week's average, and selects $199.70. That was down a little over $7 and a nickel from the average weighted average trade from the previous week. But your slaughter has backed off a little bit, and I think it has a lot to do with, they keep saying it's because your workers are tired and they can't work on Saturdays and all this. Those guys want to work. They can work. They'll sleep at night and work during the day, or vice versa. But we have seen them drop off on their kill a little bit, not quite as aggressive. A lot of it is because of those cutout values have started to back off now, and they may only be making $300 and some a head instead of $500 and some. But 629,000 head for last week. That compares, it's hard to compare to the previous week because we had Labor Day, but compared to last year, the same week, it was down 27,000, 656,000 there. But let's look at your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on Cattle Market Central late in the week ended at 137.09 based on an 800-pound steer. That was actually up 73 cents for the week. Now, your big high volume sales on Monday were down a ton. Now, one of the reasons for that is because they didn't have a sale the previous Monday because it was Labor Day, so they were having to absorb 2 weeks full of drops. But by the time we got into our not so much Tuesday, but surely our Wednesday sales, we were seeing pretty big gains because the board was so much friendlier. And I think we were actually a little bit higher by the time we got to the end of the week, and just a lot of volatility in your feeder cattle, depending on where you're at. Some sales were wrecks this past week. Some of them were starting to come around and were surprisingly decent on price, just depended on where you were at, which buyers were there, what the offering looked like. But your corporates became pretty darn bullish for a yearling of any kind, and we're starting to run out of yearlings. We've mostly run out of our green grass yearlings that we see, so now we're getting back into where a lot of your yearlings are just backgrounded cattle also. But each week from now through the end of the year, your offering in your auctions especially will be a higher percentage of calves as we start to approach the fall run. But it was a good sign to see your corporates pretty aggressive. And all over in the northern plains, down in the southern plains, the Midwest, everywhere, your corporate buyers were the ones that really had to go. They mostly want to hedge all those cattle, and when your board was up big middle of the week, it helped them out. But also they're kind of getting short of cattle. They got to keep cattle in that line, because as we work through these heavy numbers of market ready cattle, it's going to leave empty pens behind. And they really don't want to have to feed any more of those fat calves than they have to, so they're getting kind of aggressive on these yearling type cattle that are still left around. But you look at some of your big sales late in the week. Saturday there, Fort Scott, Kansas. Look at these loads of steers in Fort Scott, Kansas. And you think, they don't sell that many cattle there late in the week or on the weekend. They do. They sell a lot of cattle there, and a lot of big bunches. But that little fire scare at Cargill and Dodge City didn't scare people too long, because they did come out with positive press telling people that it was going to be all right, instead of just holding them up like they did maybe the time before. Of course, it didn't turn out too good on the time before fire. But Fort Scott, all these loads of cattle, including the last load there you see on the list, 60 head of 802-pound steers, Fort Scott, Kansas, $143.75. Another sale late in the week on Friday, Burwell livestock market, Burwell, Nebraska, about 2,500 head altogether, including what all they had. But Burwell is one of those sales that's a premium type market up there in the northern plains. And it's on the yellow brick road there, Highway 20. Got the best cattle in the world right there in the sand hills. And they will stretch their wings and their legs at Burwell once in a while. And this was one of the weeks where Burwell pretty much blew everybody out of the water. Look at this automated market report on Cattle Market Central there out of Burwell. And look at the most tested weights. They had the last of their yearlings there in the local part of that country in Nebraska. But 632 head of 8-weight steers averaged 859 at 142. 407 head of the 9 weights averaged 928 at 138.11. There, look down at some heifers, the 8-weight heifers. 225 head of the 8-weight heifers averaged 856, 133.31. And an individual quote out of Burwell there, their biggest jag of them, 238 head of 890-pound steers at 140.75. Give an individual quote out of a market that we are not getting on Cattle Market Central, but I would definitely invite them to join up. But did get a dependable quote from one of my good friends up there, and he was telling me about the sale on Saturday in Erickson, Nebraska, which that's a premium quality sale up there too. They had the longest strings you can believe in a brick and mortar sale in Erickson, Nebraska on Saturday. 399 head of 963-pound steers in Erickson, bring 133.25. That's a look at your markets from a home DV auction office here in Canyon, Texas. We'll talk to you next week.